Thank you everybody for coming to our residency prep Q&A panel. We are so excited everyone could take the time out of their evening to come here. Special shout out to our panelists. We are so grateful that they could also take time out of their day to be here. We have two PDs and APDs, and we have two attendings with us. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves to you all.
All right, I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Nidit Patel. I am the program director at Northside Hospital in Metro Atlanta. It's a community-based program. We have 45 residents. Um, I did my medical school at MSUCOM and my residency actually in internal medicine and pediatrics at the University of Miami in South Florida, and did a special residency in global health. So if any of you are interested in global health, I can talk about that as well. And then I was a faculty there, and I ran a continuity clinic. And then the program where I'm at, I helped start as an APD about 11 years ago now, and then became PD about 5 years ago. So I've kind of been through being a faculty, being starting a program, being an APD. So if you have any questions about future, if you're anybody interested in academic medicine, we can talk about that. And then obviously your application as a resident. And I'll pass it on to Dr. Cox.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here and thank you for having me. So I'm Dr. Jacqueline Cox. I'm an associate program director for the University of Connecticut's internal medicine residency program. We are a really large program. We have almost 200 residents. Um, and I also serve as the director of osteopathic education. So within our residency program, we are very proud to have osteopathic recognition through the ACGME. And so I serve in that role for our program as well as a lot of other hats that I wear. I am a graduate of NYITCOM, the Long Island campus in Old Westbury. And I went on to actually do my residency training at UConn, spent 3 years here, and was very lucky to be hired on as faculty, where I kind of worked my way up into my current position. So really excited for all of you who are ready to start this journey towards residency training. And then I'll pass it off to those that are living the real stuff right now. I noted Dr. Nelson is actually multitasking on her computer. So there's reality for you.
Dr. Nelson is finishing up her shift in ICU. So I'm in medical ICU right now. My name is Megan Nelson. I am a PGY1. So I graduated last year from Pacific Northwest University and moved to Mobile, Alabama, where I am doing my internal medicine residency.
I'm a PGY2, graduated at VIA College of Medicine, the Carolinas campus. 2024, I am now at St. Luke's Bethlehem in Pennsylvania, and I will be one of the chief residents next year.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. And for those who don't know, my name is Maya. I'm the current ACOI, and so I'm a president. So as I'm in the same boat as all of you students, so I'm very excited to hear everyone's answers and ask some questions and just learn a little bit more. So for all the students, I can go ahead and kickstart this with one question. And if anyone has questions, raise your hand, put it in the chat, and we can get some questions flowing. But let's go ahead and get started so we can get as much in as we can. But my first question I have, and this can really go towards the PDs and APDs first, if they have any input, what qualities consistently predict success in residency?
Sure, I can get us started. That's a great question, probably one of the most important questions. And there are lots, but a few that I really looking out for in students is having a growth mindset. So, that means being ready to learn at any moment, finding learning opportunities, even in failure, even in mistakes, taking feedback very well, and understanding that when a faculty member or a patient, a nurse, anybody is giving you feedback, whether it's delivered kindly or delivered in whatever manner that they're able to deliver it. You process that and you can take it with, hey, I'm here to learn. I'm here to be the best physician I can be. And when people come in with that mindset, really everything else kind of falls into place. So I think that's just like one huge point to take home.
I wholeheartedly agree with Dr. Patel. Also communication skills are key, right? You need to be able to communicate with every single person that you encounter and recognize that during your training, everyone shapes you. Your patients shape you. That the person who you buy your coffee from every morning in the cafeteria shapes you. That every single person, no matter what their role is that you encounter during this challenging time of your life, is going to bring something lasting to you, and you're going to learn from something from them, whether you realize it or not. And so to just embrace everyone that you meet and have those conversations, learn from every single person, will serve you so well throughout the time of your training.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Um, I think that's good advice for rotations as well. Anybody who gives you feedback, you know, take it well, no matter how they give it to you. Um, this one, actually, Dr. Nelson might be able to answer. Sorry to interrupt her in the middle of finishing up her shift, but a question that was submitted to us was how best should a new resident prepare for ICU with no experience, and what kind of resources should they look into before their rotation?
So ICU is a very interesting place, and you kind of just have to take the advice that Dr. Cox and Dr. Patel were talking about being willing to do anything, being willing to learn from everyone. Your nurses are your best friend, no matter what rotation you're on, but definitely in the ICU because they've been there for a very long time. I used a lot of online med ed. I really enjoyed that. I have their little intern book. It helps with the highlights of first walking into an ICU. And then obviously there's a lot of space in the book, which is nice because you can make little notes and go back and do things. And really just leaning on the staff around you, leaning on your senior, leaning on your nurses, and just being very open minded about what.
Can I just add to that? So I think what makes ICU unique for a lot of students, so not all of your medical schools actually make you do an ICU rotation during your time in third and fourth year. I would say for those of you that are third years, kind of looking into your fourth year, if you are planning on doing medicine and you have the opportunity to do an ICU elective, that is a huge opportunity because it's a little, let's be honest, a lot scary going into an ICU as a new doctor if you haven't been there before as a student. So getting that experience is really excellent if you can. And you're going to work your butt off, and you're going to work your butt off as a student, as an intern, but you're going to appreciate the experience. I like to consider the ICU a controlled chaos, essentially. But they have a very different rounding style, right? So you guys are learning on the wards right now how rounds go, hopefully learning how to present in SOAP formats, knowing the expectations from your attending on how you're working on your presentation skills. The ICU is a little different. It's not often problem-based, it's systems-based, and that takes a little time to get used to. So if you don't have an opportunity to do an ICU rotation as a fourth year, I am pretty sure that you can Google probably some great videos out there on how ICU style rounding and presentations go. And there's very specific things that intensivists, so critical care doctors, are looking for that they want you also to be noting during your presentations that are a little different than your general day-to-day on the wards. So having a little familiarity with that, if you can't do a rotation, will, I think, help make you feel better going into it.
Thank you. Thank you. For the students putting questions in the chat, you are more than welcome to unmute and ask your question, but I am also more than happy to read it on your behalf. But I just wanted to let you know in case you guys felt you had to put it in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and read one of them. Um, any advice on how to improve on time management and chart reviewing patients in the morning prior to rounding?
So, oh, go ahead, Brett.
I was just gonna say that although part of it is, I think, developing a sort of checklist that you go through the same thing every time. Like, if it's a new patient, getting their past medical history down, what they're in the hospital for, things like that. If it's a follow-up, past events in the 24 hours, vitals, labs, things like that. Part of it is just a skill like anything else that comes with time in terms of being able to practice it and get it down faster. I can certainly review a chart much more quickly than I could a year ago. I've seen attendings who can go through it and certainly pull out a level of detail that I can't in a much shorter time. So don't be disheartened if you see people go through a chart and do it much faster than you. Work on getting your style down, making sure that you're doing a comprehensive review. And once you get that set, uh your workflow down, it'll get faster over time.
So as I saw the question pop up in the chat, and there's a really good resource that, can I share my screen? Is that possible? Uh, oh, the host disabled sharing. That's okay. So,
Kara, I'm sorry, I think we can get that set for you. Kara, can you flip that for him?
Yep, I made him a co-host, so he should be able to share
oh,
now.
okay,
Thank you.
perfect. I can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this was developed by Penn, University of Pennsylvania, on just efficiency. There's a lot of different tools on efficiency, but it's kind of it's called prepping the patient. I'll just go through it very quickly because I think it's very helpful even for the residents that are listening here. So one thing that people don't do enough is visualize on your way to work. Think about all the patients that you are going to be seeing that day and what needs to happen to them later. Or do you know that they're staying? Do you know that they're going? If they're going, like start thinking about how you're going to discharge them and all that stuff. You just saw them the night before, right? So there's not that much that could have happened. So you're kind of planning your day, barring any crazy change that happened in the last 12 hours. And the people who are really sick, if you're really worried about being sick, you're thinking about, okay, well, it's like anticipatory guidance. If this, then I'm going to do this. If that, I'm going to do that, right? So you've already got, then when you get to the hospital, you're already kind of ready. And you also think about like, geographically, where am I going to go first? Where am I going to go second? And all that kind of stuff. You get a sign out usually, right, from a night flow, and you get your written, get your verbal sign out. And then you think about kind of a game plan, and you think about what's urgent and emergent. And you think about, so the things that you want to pick in terms of where you go is acuity, geography, and discharge. Okay. Then the mistake that people make is they try to like look for labs and they try to look at all the notes and everything before they go in the room. And often that stuff might not even be available until a little bit later. You guys are getting there very, very early. And so go talk to the nurse, because the night shift nurse also leaves, and you're going to get a lot of valuable information from them. So go talk to the nurse and go into the room. And all you really need to do in the room, because you already know this patient very well, you fully examine this patient because you're talking about rounding in this question. So is the reason why they're there better or worse or the same? Right? That's a very simple question, right? And then asking very pointed questions as to like the symptoms they were having the day before. And is it better, worse, or the same? And then you can say anything new. You don't have to go do a full review of systems. They're going to tell you something changed in the last 12 hours. And if not, don't worry about it. And then the same with physical exam. Like you already know their exam well, so you should already have like they call hypothesis-driven exam to like, okay, well, if they have heart failure, I care about their edema, right? I need to listen, and I care about their lungs. They have crack, right? So be very pointed in all that stuff. And then when you think about discharge, you think about can they eat, can they drink, can they walk, and where are they going to go? That's like really like it's that simple. And then you can note your findings, and then when you go back, you guys can read this. You can check your labs and everything else. This is just like nice little framework, but really, I think you guys can Google this online. And they have got great resources on being efficient. So I just wanted to share one of them because the question came up.
I think that's a great resource from Dr. Patel. I think the one thing too that you guys will see, you'll have to shift in your mindset. So now as a student, you really have kind of all the time in the world to spend with your patients, and that's going to change a little bit. And you should, as an intern, as a resident, as a faculty member, right, we should all still be spending as much time as we can at the bedside with the patient, right? That's what brings us the meaning, that's what brings us the joy, that's why we're all doing this. But as an intern who is learning a lot and has to be ready for rounds whenever your attending wants to start rounding, you're going to learn over time also the art of gracefully exiting, right? And so, how do you say to a patient, okay, I hear you, I understand you, I'm going to address that concern, I have to excuse myself right now, I do have a few other patients to see, but I'll be back. I'm going to be back with my team, whatever it is. I'm going to be back with my team, and we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more, right? Because patients also, you are their doctor. They want to have as much face time with you as possible. And so, just kind of setting those expectations that, okay, not dismissing them, but we're going to get this addressed. We'll talk about it later. Don't make the mistake of pigeonholing yourself, right? So don't say I'm going to be back at 1 o'clock on the dot, because you don't know what's going to happen at 1 o'clock on your day, right? So kind of speak in generalities of like, this is the time frame where I think I will be back with my team or back with myself, or I'll send in my medical student to talk about this a little bit more, right? Because you're going to have your own medical students soon. And as long as you follow through, right, you do come back at some point, or you send somebody back, or you give them the time and the space, just not in that critical time where you're trying to get ready for rounds. Patients will appreciate that, and they will be completely accepting of that, and it will get easier and more comfortable as you get comfortable with your own style and your own communication skills with patients.
Thank you so much. That resource was amazing. I feel like I'm gonna go print it out right now and bring it with me on my fourth year rotations. Um, what is one or two things you wish you had known or done during residency that you perhaps did not know at the time?
Maybe Brett, do you want to answer that from internship? What you feel about internship?
Yeah, I'd say I went in expecting to learn a lot of medicine the first year, which I did. But also as a student, you're learning mainly the medicine. I feel like as an intern, there's a switch to thinking more about workflow, like Dr. Patel was saying, like prepping for, is this patient ready to leave the hospital? Why are they in the hospital? How can we facilitate them leaving, even if these are not necessarily the medical things, working on the social aspects as well. So I would just say, know that you will be learning a lot and not necessarily just what you thought you were going to be learning. I learned so many different things about law and in the local area, local resources, that I was not expecting to learn. So just be open, have that growth mindset. When you're, I think curiosity is great and that growth mindset, and you'll learn so much about so many different things.
I think that's all great, and I definitely agree. Like we always tell our residents, the first 3 months is focused on a domain of competency called systems-based practice. Right? It's the things in medical school you learn medicine, and in internship you learn how to deliver medicine. Right? So how do you work within the system? And that's very, very important. I would say kind of on a different view from finishing residency. I think I mean all of you are very understandably, justifiably like nervous about internship, like oh my god, how am I going to be as a physician? You are a physician, it carries a lot of weight, but just knowing and understanding that you have a lot of support, and so put yourself in uncomfortable situations, like things that make you feel uncomfortable with because they're challenging or complex, or you're scared about doing it, and you're scared about disappointing somebody. That's okay, because you always have support. You've always got somebody above you that can help you. And if you don't do it, then you're just delaying discomfort for a future time when there may not be as much support. So just do all of it, and do all of that right now as a fourth year student. You have even more support. Get your hands dirty, get as many procedures as you can, whatever it is that you're, and even things you may not be interested in, because the other big lesson is you never know when something is going to help you. So, don't just slack off on your ortho rotation or something random that you just thought you, because and especially internal medicine, it is so broad, you will hit every single subspecialty. So you just, enjoy it, but take it all very seriously as well.
How significant is research when applying for residency? And do you prefer quantity or quality in terms of research projects, publications, etc.? Maybe the PDs and APDs can answer this one if they're sitting on more panels. I'm not sure.
So I mean, I can start. It's a very nuanced question, right? So there is not a one size fits all answer to this question, right? And that really is what makes applying for residency so challenging and so nerve-wracking, because everything is nuanced. So in regards to research specifically, the advice that I give to students is, you have to understand what's important to you when you're looking for residency programs, right? If you after residency see yourself as a clinician scientist, right? Somebody who is doing a lot of research, that is your day to day, then you're potentially looking at like going to residency programs that have a lot of research built into that training program, in which case both quantity and quality is going to be really important, right? If that is not your career goal, research is not the end all be all, right? Not everybody there's some people who are just clinicians and don't want to do research, right? And so it's not that you have to have it on your CV. I'll ask Dr. Patel his thoughts on this, but the way I think about it in general, and so I'm going to kind of just broaden this out beyond the research, right? Because it's like what makes a good candidate in general. Do I need research? Do I need volunteerism? Do I need leadership? Right? You need stuff, but you don't need everything, right? You need to generally have a focus, right? And so the same thing I said about research is just starting at the point of like where you kind of see your career going, lean into that, right? So any residency program that you go to is going to teach you the medicine. Dr. Patel's LASIX works just the same as my LASIX, right? We're going to teach you all about that, right? Because, we're ACGME accredited internal medicine residency programs at the end of the day, right? But what we're also looking for is candidates that are going to help shape and further our programs, right? So if we take UConn, for example, a lot of residency programs will offer things outside of just the medicine that you can learn, right? You heard Dr. Patel say he has a particular interest in global health. At UConn, we have a global health track as well. We have a research track. We have a clinician educator track for people who see themselves as, continuing their careers as physicians, but also love teaching medical students, love teaching you guys. We have a lifestyle medicine track. We have all these different tracks, right? So when I'm looking for candidates for my residency program, I'm looking for people with varied interests. Yes, I need candidates who have research heavy CVs, right? Because those are people that are going to be in my research track. I also am looking for candidates who do have an interest in global health, because they're going to participate in my global health track, and so on and so forth. I don't need 60 interns that all want to do global health, because my physician can't take 60 interns every year to Uganda. It's just not possible, right? So we're not just looking for one type of candidate, right? We want people who have a focus, who have a trajectory and a path, so that you can then come to our program, participate in these things, and share that knowledge with program leadership and your fellow colleagues, right? So our research track residents are going to teach our other residents who are maybe not super as interested in it about like maybe how to do lighter posters or case reports or what might it be. And our global health residents are going to share their knowledge from their trips and whatnot that they go on. And so, you know, when you're starting your application, don't feel that you need to check every single box. I have to have something here. I have to have something here. I have to have something here. And I think ERAS, you guys, when you're getting there, I think the application process has actually changed a lot in the past years and is working in your favor because it's really allowing you guys to kind of highlight what that trajectory and what that path is and what's really important to you. And not necessarily just say, oh, I did all these things, but were they meaningful? So I know I diverged a lot from just the research question, but hopefully that kind of answers it a little bit in some way and just kind of gives a bigger perspective on prepping on how you're going to apply to residency. I don't know, Dr. Patel, if you agree, disagree.
I'll say that I was going to answer the exact same way.
We didn't plan.
Yeah. Actually, Megan Nelson, she interviewed with us, and my whole talk on the interview day is about finding your match, and that means like the programs, as Dr. Cox said, we're all ACGME accredited, but we're all very different in some of the ancillary stuff, and we have different focuses, and a lot of us have varied tracks, and some places maybe just have like a singular focus of making you an excellent clinician, right? Some of you want to do rural medicine, some of you want to do urban medicine, some of you want to live in the suburbs. And so we all have this idea in our head of like getting into this best program, whatever that means, but it really means something different for all of you, right? And so it is time to get out of the mindset of I need to be at the best ranked place to like I need to find the best place for me. So if you're struggling with like, oh, like I haven't done research, maybe you're not a research person. And maybe you need to be in a community-based program that really makes excellent clinicians. If you're like a scientist and you're like love that stuff, then yeah, you probably have to be at an academic institution that does the type of research that you are interested in, right? Because you'll even find yourself unhappy if they're not doing that research, So and so just be genuine, right? Follow your passions and we can see it, right? So if you're looking, definitely quantity is not the answer, except for in one situation, and that is doing GI. And so like the number of publications very much matters if you do GI. However, there are still some like traditionally osteopathic programs that favor kind of what traditionally osteopathic programs do, which is hard work and showing, your loyalty to that program, your interest in that program, putting the time in. But a lot of the programs that are out there, because GI, I'm mentioning GI because it's the most competitive by far to the next level, which is cardiology and hemonc. They average 20 publications, 18, 20 publications. And so it's number and quality matter. So that's something that you, as I joke with my residents, should have started from birth. But apart from that, and for most things, like I think just if you follow your passions, if you're truly honest about what a place that would make you happy with regard to location, environment, the opportunities they have, then you'll find your match, and you won't have to worry too much about did I have enough of this or that. Or
I think that's such great advice. I love that. Residency is too hard to land at a place where you're not going to be happy just because of a name, right? Because you're not going to thrive. So, and the name's not going to just launch you into what you think. Because if you're not happy, you're not going to perform, you're not going to thrive. And a name's just a name at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And if I could just add on to that, obviously I'm not looking at applications, but I didn't do any research. It was not for me, and I was very honest with my programs when I interviewed and told them that. And I was actually looking for certain things, looking for certain locations, all of which I got. And I actually took things from other residency programs, like Dr. Patel's, and brought them to my residency program and say, hey, I'd love to do this. And now we're implementing certain things like that.
Thank you so much. I love how you guys brought into the answer to that because I feel like you probably answered a million questions in one with that answer in the best way. So thank you so, so much. This might be a good question for the residents to start off with, kind of advice on what they did, and then see if you guys agree. But what advice would you give a medical student completing an audition rotation at a program they are very interested in doing residency at? How can they be helpful? How can they build relationships with program leadership during that time?
Like everyone else has said, it's finding the right match, not just finding a match. So be yourself is what I'd say and see how that goes. You don't want to pretend to be something that you're not for a month to try and get into this program where you're then going to have to pretend to be something you're not for 3 years and then be unhappy those 3 years. So be genuine, be helpful. So, be friendly and be the best you can. I think that sort of putting your best foot forward gives them a sense of who you are, and you get a sense of who the program is as well. And you can tell from that really, is this a good fit? Is this not a good fit? I think that's very good. A lot of programs will have the faculty that you're working with will be part of program leadership, even if it's not necessarily the PD or the APT, certainly teaching faculty will be there. I would recommend sitting down with at least the PD sometime during that time. Just say like, I obviously had some interest in this program. That's why I came here and did this. I tended to do it during the end of my rotation, like not the very end, but like I've been here like this long. This is what I've loved. And then just sort of like introduce yourself and get to know their sense of how they see the program, where they see the program going, things like that.
I think Megan's busy.
Yes, but I can answer real quickly because I did hear the question. I'm multitasking. On audition rotations, it's be you. You're learning who the program is, and the program is learning who you are. And so, like you said, if you have to fake it for a month and you match there, you're gonna have to fake it for 3 years. So really just open up who you are and just be right, be genuine. That's all it boils down to. Be encouraging, be genuine, and just be there to learn. Absorb everything because you can take it with you wherever you go.
I would just add that I honestly, we're talking about how to impress program leadership. I truthfully really want you to impress my interns and residents, right? Because you're going to be their junior. And if they really loved working with you, they're going to come find me and say, please hire this person. Right. And so, being as helpful as possible to your intern and your residents that you're working with, I think goes a huge way. It's interesting. You may find to Dr. Cohen's comment, at UConn, Dr. Nardino actually, I kind of serve as his proxy for visiting students who come to rotate with us because just from an equity perspective and virtual interviews, he wants to keep the playing field level because not everybody does get to do a rotation. Unfortunately, at UConn, it's pretty competitive. So I kind of serve as his proxy. And then I get to feed forward to him. And that's why I, even more so say, like, I want to know what my residents and interns think about you. So just putting that best foot forward every day and pressing the people whose jobs you want.
Yeah, and then just to add, on top of all of those things, also impressing and being kind to the coordinators, right? This includes during interviews, right? They give us a lot of information of who you really are, or if you're in a clinic, the clinic staff, right? Being kind to everybody. You should always be kind, but some people's true colors kind of come out when people aren't watching, and there are people watching. There's always somebody who knows the leadership and was happy to share their feedback if someone's doesn't fit the culture of the program. So that's one. Make sure to make your enthusiasm known, like for the program, but also don't be obnoxious about it. Right? So have some situational awareness, like, okay, yes, you let people know that like this is a place you really want to be, you're very interested, and that's great. And you know, make it clear that you're really enjoying the rotation too. Like people like to hear those things, right? People like flattery at the end of the day, but then there is like a line at which it's too much, and you know, step back. So just again, read the room, like read the residents, the interns, whoever it is that you're working with.
That's such good advice, Dr. Patel, right? So, like, the hidden secret here is that Dr. Patel and I don't actually run our programs, our coordinators do, right? They are the heart and soul of programs. And so that it's really important. It's that, you know, kind of what I said in the beginning, every single person is important, no matter how big or small their role is in this crazy time that is residency training and being a medical student.
I feel like that's advice we all need to hear several more times. Awareness of, of a situation on when enough is enough. Guilty of overdoing it sometimes. So it's always good to hear that advice. Someone asked, as someone going into a community hospital that does not have every fellowship, how can you gain exposure to certain specialties like GI or HEMONC, like you had mentioned previously? They heard you should start early before residency. Is that advice you agree with?
Yeah, I guess being from a community program that has no fellowships, I can talk. I have matched people into every fellowship, including GI, HEMONC, cardiology, and others. So yes, whatever you can do right now, get on case reports. If you're at an institution that has research, just get onto it, because you can continue that when you leave there, right? You can even start research at a different institution. So we're near Emory University, and it's not uncommon for our residents to reach out to a PI, an investigator, for something they're interested in, and just volunteer their time, of course, within duty hours, to do research. And so you have to know the program, right? So I mean, my program has, like, we have a VA that's connected to two other university-based programs, so we can get research that way. They can get exposure to fellowships that way. We pair people up with specialist mentors, because every program you have to have exposure of some kind to be ACGME accredited, right? So every program will have some physician in that specialty, and hopefully, and they have to have a subspecialty coordinator. And so at the very least, this is a person in that specialty who you can turn to as a mentor or as a connector, hopefully to someone else. But most of the specialties also, you should know their national organization, and you should join them as a resident. Usually it's very cheap, and you know, every program should have some amount of money set aside for you to have, like CME or something. And so you can put towards your own development. And I would highly encourage you to do that early. And they often have groups for mentorship, especially for people who may not have as much mentorship locally. So do that. There's usually national chapters and often regional or even state chapters of these, as well as I mean, ACOI can help connect you as well, I'm sure. So utilize whatever resource you have. You know, being resourceful is another one of those major skills you can have in residency. And so we see residents who come and say, I want to do GI. And then you kind of give them a bit of a game plan. And then 2 years later, they didn't do any of it. And they're like, I want to do GI. You're like, well, you're not going to match. And then you tell some people, you know, what to do. And they're like, not only did I do that, but I also called this person and that person. I'm on 5 different projects, and you know, they're just going at it right away. So no matter what program you go to, you can find this mentorship either internally or externally.
I would say, just in addition to the national organizations, there's usually a national meeting. I think it's ACG for gastroenterology. I'm more interested in cardiology. So ACC, AHA, many programs will have funding if you are presenting at those conferences, and that's a great opportunity. They will also often have either like regional get-togethers or just mentoring sessions there as well. even if you don't go to one of those special sessions, you're usually standing in front of either your poster for an hour or so, or presenting like an oral abstract, and all those is giving you face time with people in the specialty that you want to go into. Wonderful opportunities to interact with them, get more exposure, and so you don't necessarily need to have a fellowship program in-house to get that exposure.
And I will say if you know that you want to do a certain fellowship and that they don't have it at the program, but you otherwise love that program, um, just ask them like, are you allowed to do away rotation? So, we do offer that in our second and third year towards the end of it if you meet a few requirements. So you can get exposure to a fellowship program and let them know that you are highly interested in that program, just like how you guys do audition rotations in your fourth year.
Amazing. Thank you. Someone asked, how would you recommend applicants address a board exam failure, and what can they do to overcome the limitations these create if residency programs screen applicants based on score attempts?
You want to go first? I'm happy to answer too, but Dr. Kyle.
Yeah, it's tricky. My hope for all of you is that programs are doing what we call holistic reviews, right? Um, because you're more than a score. And we all know that. And I don't, so I know how bad it feels to have that kind of bump in the road. And so it is absolutely overcomable. Do not let it, you just have to keep going, keep pursuing your dream. Don't let it overwhelm you. Um, but you have to be realistic, right? So as you guys get closer to this process, you're going to learn all about program signals and geographic signals, and right, it all comes down in the end to finding the right match, right? There are a lot of medicine programs out there, right? We are, I like to think of us as like, we love everybody, right? We are very forgiving. We know you're not just a score, right? But you have to be realistic in what you're looking for, right? So, you know, there's, like we've alluded to, there are big name programs out there that may carry a certain level of prestige to them. I promise you, like I said, their Lasix doesn't work any better than anybody else's. Their insulin doesn't work any better than anybody else's, right? But the reality is they are going to screen you out, right? But that's okay. You don't need to be at that program, and you probably wouldn't thrive at that program anyway, because if they're going to screen you out, then you shouldn't want to be there to begin with, if they're not recognizing that. So I think, I would lean on, hopefully you guys have advisors within your schools that are kind of helping, giving you guidance on what programs you really should be looking at that are realistic for you based on not just that one little blip, but the rest of your application, right? Because the rest of your application is really important. And I don't know if you guys have started looking at it, but the AAMC's Residency Explorer tool over the past couple years has really evolved and is such a wealth of information for you guys to just, because like, where do you start? How do you even figure out like what programs are out there, right? It's a great starting point to just say like, okay, what programs are out there? It's going to give you information on average step scores, level scores of programs. It's going to give you kind of where people kind of schools they're coming from, if their schools are ranking, what quartiles they're coming from. It's going to give you guys a lot of good information to kind of try to find the programs that you're going to apply to that are going to be the right fit for you. And at the end of the day, I'll just take one step back too, as we're kind of just thinking about programs to look for. Another really important thing for you guys to think about as you're searching for that right fit in that program is, what is your geography? What is your support system going to be during this really difficult time? Are you willing to be a car ride away from your family? Are you willing to be a plane ride away from your family, your loved ones, whomever that might be? And start there, right? And then so where's your geography? What are the programs available? Use this tool to start narrowing down, like, okay, the people at this program have these huge level and step scores. That's probably not the right program for me. That's not realistic. Let me kind of broaden my search. Oh, wow, here's this program where, look, they take a lot of DOs into their program. And wow, they have this thing that I'm really interested in that I'm going to highlight on my CV, right? That's the program that's probably going to be very interested in you and is going to forgive that bump in the road as long as there weren't other major bumps in the road, if that kind of makes sense. Dr. Patel, if you have any other wisdom.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree with that, and it goes back to like this idea of finding the right match. I guess to answer the part about how you address it directly, because so
Mm.
programs do holistic review, we do holistic review, um, but I will say, at least us, I do address it. Okay. And you should be ready to address it. And what does that mean? Um, we want to know that you have insight that, oh, yeah, this is something I need to work on, right? Yes, there's this idea of, I take tests poorly, but I perform well on rounds and everything. But at the end of the day, the idea of like a passing score is that you have the foundation to be a competent physician, and then you can pass boards, right? It's predictive of board passage as well, which for better or worse, we have to also meet that hurdle as well. And we're judged. You all look at our programs and say, oh, that place has a bad pass rate. Well, pass rates are very directly linked to your step one scores and now step two scores, right? Or level one or two as well. So just addressing it, so owning it, right? We hear sometimes there's two paths where people go. They own it and say, you know what? I really looked in the mirror after I had that failure. I made these changes. I got mentorship from my school, and I had a passing score. And then look, my step two is even level two is even better. And if they took level three, that's even better. That's awesome, or at least stable, right? And then we have they're like, oh well, I was kind of sick, and this happened and that happened, and then we often it's the whole idea of growth mindset. I often see those same people kind of their level two is like okay, as the ones who really took it, they're like, hey, this is a wake up call for me, and they just really crush it. So we can see all those things, right? But again, I think if you show that you have a growth mindset and that you really reflect it, I think that's the most important thing when you're communicating about it.
I think another thing kind of in the line of disclosure, another thing that's really going to be important for your application is letters of recommendation, right? And so when you are building that relationship with somebody that you're potentially going to ask for a letter and then ultimately ask them, if it feels right and if it feels like it's natural, you can say to a person, I would love for you to write me a letter of recommendation. I think we worked really well together. I hope that I impressed you during my time. I've had this struggle. I didn't pass this test or this course or whatever it might be. And kind of talk through that and get some mentorship from this person that you have built this relationship with, particularly, applying IM if it's IM faculty. And, they could potentially address it in their letter. Like, I recognize that this student had this bump in the road. They showed me on rounds that they are able to go through a prioritized differential, show me their clinical reasoning, understand the medications, right? So there's opportunity there if you do have a strong relationship with your letter writers, for that person who is seeing you and seeing how well you can perform it and truly knows you're not just a scorer, to be able to advocate for you in that way as well.
Thank you guys so much. Um, I don't actually have any more questions in the chat, but I didn't know if any students had any more questions or if I should start pulling from my own questions. Anybody have any questions? Don't be shy. You've seen these panelists are awesome. Only good advice. Okay. I have a good question for some of the residents. I would love to hear your input on what are some ways you decompress. So, I know residency is a very stressful time and you were go, 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 working so hard, working all the time. But what are some really good ways to decompress, and activities you like to do in your free time?
I'm not a huge fan of the gym, but I try and do something physical, just because it sort of helps clear the mind, especially after a stressful day. So at least walking outside, a jog if I feel up to it. A lot of the residents and I will try and play sports together, so we'll do tennis. I started up golf, which don't love it, but it's fun doing something together with other residents, and that's what they like to do. Pickleball, I'm a big fan of doing something active in your free time. It's a great way to release endorphins, sort of like take your mind out of something else. I am a big fan of reading sometimes after a long shift. I get home, I don't feel like reading. I really just can't make myself sit down and read something else. But doing something active, I think, is a way to sort of force yourself to do something that's not medicine, which you really do need. Um, so I'm a great fan of that.
I'll answer, but it's really skewed for me. So I have a family. I have a husband and two kids. So my time not in the hospital is spent with them and basically child rearing. But I did buy chickens this year to decompress. So now I have four chickens and I homeschool my kids. And yeah, it's just pure chaos. So it's chaos whether I'm in the hospital or outside.
I don't know, Dr. Nelson. Chickens just sound like more work. I'm not sure that was a smart move.
It works out really well for the homeschool kids because now we get life lessons and I get free eggs.
Nice. There you go.
I think there's a question in the chat about step two. Um, I'll say if you ask 10 program directors, you may get 10 different answers for this. So one way of looking at it is that if a program's not going to look at your COMLEX score, then they probably, they may not take you as seriously anyway. Um, I'll say there's a caveat to that in my personal experience, and that's if you are somehow confined because of the specialty you're choosing or the region that you need to be in or like a city you need to be in. And if it really is only, and usually these are most like university-based programs, if we're just being honest, not a program like UConn, which is very DO friendly, but there are other programs that may not be as DO friendly. Um, and you kind of have to break through. You do, I will say that still it's probably there that you got to show them that you're capable of doing that. And so I have a great example actually of 2 points. One from the idea of a failure can't define you. So I had a student I was mentoring who I didn't know this until I started writing a letter for him and we had more chats. But he was this amazing student on the wards, and I tell one or two students a year that I'll write a letter for them, and he was that person. And he happened to want to do med peds, and he happened to be confined to a very restricted area, and it was going to be very very difficult for him anyway. And then I learned that he failed his first year and had to repeat it, and I was just like, oh, okay. But this kid was brilliant on the wards, and I said, for you to get in this program to even get like your eye looked at, you need a 270, which is like a 850 or something on level two. And he's like, I'm gonna do it, and he did, and he matched there. So it's all possible. So again, it's knowing, it's like being aware of like your goals and kind of like what you need. So if if that's the only place that you can go, okay, sure, like go after it. And if you're capable, and like if he was capable, he's clearly capable. When I met him, I knew he was capable of doing that. But that's not for everybody, right? That just requires like a certain skill set of being very good at test too, and he was very bright and all this kind of stuff. But if you have like a specific goal like that and like a restriction like that, go for it. But if that's really stressing you out, I mean, a poor step two score could really hurt you, right? Say you did, you know, your school is teaching you the skills to make you excel on a, like a level exam, right? On a complex exam. And so you have to kind of shift a little bit to do better on a U.S. Assembly exam. And you're working against kids who went to schools where they're trying to teach to that exam probably. So if you're looking at a community-based program and you're happy with your level two, I would not push for that. But if again, if you have very specific needs, then and you know that you can do well on it because of you've got indications of that, then you know maybe it's worth going after.
I think that's great advice. I will also say I think a lot of programs disclose on their websites whether they accept step or level or both. You can get a general sense by looking at programs, right? So if you looked at UConn's currently matched residents, right? Most programs will have who their current residents are on their websites. You're going to see a lot of DOs, like Dr. Patel. Thank you. We are very DO friendly. We are very proud of that. You know, if you're looking at a program and there's not a single DO in any of their classes, probably doesn't even matter whether you take step or not, right? Like and unfortunately that's the reality. Regards specifically to subspecializing, if there is any possibility, we're going to go back to GI again, if there's any possibility that you want to be a gastroenterologist or a cardiologist and you see that potentially in your future, please take step two. You're probably also going to be taking step three as well, in addition to level three. Again, I don't like it. I'm sorry. That's the way it is, but that's the way it is, and we have to accept it. But I will also say in the same breath that there are a lot of other amazing subspecialties, and just staying general medicine is also amazing that don't require you to take extra tests.
Thank you so much for those answers. Does any other students have questions? You can unmute, you could type it in the chat. Okay. All
If
right.
there are no other questions, maybe our panelists could leave us with a few final thoughts. And then I'd also, from the ASOI's perspective, like to take a minute to thank all of you for joining this evening. And also thank you to our panelists for sharing your expertise and your experiences and everything else and your time. Thank you so much for sharing that with us this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. This was fun. Thanks to the students for some great questions. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go back to just be genuine, like be who you are. If you feel like you're forcing yourself into a box to try to get into a program, it's probably not the best program for you, and you probably won't be happy. So really just find your match, have a lot of fun. In the process of finding a program, and then remember to have fun in residency. Residency is very hard, but when you're past it, you will look back at it very fondly as one of the toughest times in your life, but one of the best times of your life. You're going to make a lot of friends, and again, challenge yourself every single day, because it's a great time to learn, and it's the last time really where you're going to have a lot of support in your learning.
So I will say as my parting words, I think it's really important to remember that Each and every one of you has your own trajectory. We can really harm ourselves by comparing ourselves to others, right? You're each on your own path. You're each going to come and bring different skills to your residency program and hopefully make that program better and make yourself better as well. And everybody is going to have their own course, right? So some of your colleagues might have more medical knowledge than you, but man, you're a whiz with Epic or whatever it is, right? Or you are just the most efficient in time management, right? Learn from one another as well, and you're all going to get there in the end. I actually, so I asked one of my like about to graduate residents, I'm like, what should I say to these medical students, right? You're living this, so tell me. So this is advice from a third year UConn resident. Residency is going to be hard. Don't be discouraged. The hours are going to be long and the outcomes aren't always what you pictured. But it's a privilege to get to do this because not everybody gets to live this dream. So, in the midst of the long hours and the bad outcomes, remember why you chose this path. Pick out one good thing every day because we are surrounded by so many good things that will keep you going. Focus on those things. Don't lose sight of them, even in the long days and the hard times. Residency will end. You will go on to the next hard thing in your life and you will continue to do amazing. And I just thought that had so much wisdom in it. I wanted to share that with you guys. She said it way better than I ever could have.
I really enjoyed being a resident. I thought I like it better than being a medical student. You sort of like have a place and get a little bit more autonomy and you're not sort of like scrambling all the time. But I do think it's harder. I'm sort of like light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, as a attending, it's easier. I talk to attendings. They're like, no, it doesn't really get easier after. So I would say don't necessarily have like just the light at the end of the tunnel mindset. Like there will be challenges no matter what you do. So enjoy what you're doing. Like medicine is not an easy path, but we all chose it for a reason. So remember why you chose it and try to find the joy in what you're doing every day. It's it's a challenge and it's a privilege.
Man, they stole all the good comments. Uh, there's not much I can add to that. I will say, given that you guys are still medical students, it's kind of a great place to be. I was given some advice early on uh, in clinical rotations to fail epically, and that as a medical student, that was my best place to learn my confidence in what I was saying and how I was doing it, even if I was 100% wrong. It was where I was learning to stand on my own 2 feet, to make decisions, to dig my heels in the ground and make a decision, because that's what it comes down to. We're making these decisions. And so I used that throughout my clinicals and I failed epically and I came up with some of the wildest treatment plans and made my attendings laugh so hard on a plethora of occasions. But it translated very well coming into intern year, where I kind of took off running because I already had the confidence. Now I just needed to learn the medicine. I needed to learn, you can't give a gram of furosemide to a patient. And that's obviously a very wild example, but it was, it made it easier to start my intern year with that high confidence.
Thank you all so much. This panel was absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your evenings, actively still working while on the panel. So grateful for it. We are so lucky to have you guys and to have your advice, your wisdom, and your support. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you to the students for coming, submitting amazing questions, the hard questions, and just giving us all an opportunity to learn about what to come next. So thank you all.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
great evening.
Maya, for hosting us and keeping us going, and to Kara for organizing us.
Absolutely.
Have a great night, everyone.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Thanks, y'all.